Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Continue to help the station grow. Interesting topic today. And I would like people to put their thoughts in the comments. Because I got a feeling this thing is going to go either way. People are going to think the take is ridiculous, and people are going to think that the take may not be so ridiculous. I am on the side of possibly the take not being so ridiculous. Is Thursday a must win for the Minnesota Vikings? This early in the season after a 5-0 start, stubbed our toe a little bit against the Detroit Lions, losing on a last-second field goal, losing by 2 at home to the Detroit Lions. Now we get a short week. We have to fly all the way out to the West Coast, California, to face a scrappy Rams team. Is it a must-win? Some people would err on the side of, no, it's not a must-win. You know, this will be our 7th game of the season. We got 10 more games to go. Lionel, how can it be a must-win? That's just a ridiculous take. And I get it. It's still early in the season. Lots of season to play. Lots of games to be won. Lot of time to be jockeying for the best playoff position that you could possibly get if the Vikings are so fortunate enough to make the playoffs, which it looks like they're off to a good start. But I do think Thursday is a must-win because a loss could start the unraveling of everything that you did during the first 5 games. And so you have to think about a loss. Okay, what is a loss? As I said in yesterday's podcast, that when you lose, it's obvious that something doesn't go right. KOC likes to use the term all 3 phases all the time. You hear it in his post-game press conferences. We got to be great on all 3 phases. Well, if you lose to the Rams on Thursday night, that means that some of your phases didn't work out, whether it's on the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, special teams. What does that do for the mentality now of your football team? And I think it's easy to say, well, these guys are getting paid to show up every week. It's not that easy. That's why sports psychologists get paid so much. It's not that easy to flip a switch. When you look at the 5-0 start, and if you get dinged twice in a row, that does something to your football team. It does something to your fan base. I mean, just look at yesterday. Look at the game on Sunday, and look at the aftermath and the opinions of people after the Minnesota Vikings lost one game by 2 points. Last-second field goal. Everything's wrong with our football team now. Quarterback can't play. Coaches can't coach. Defense gets exposed. So it's important because the Minnesota Vikings players, they've got to live in that environment. That, you know, if people are writing stuff, the sports talk shows are starting to talk. That's a real thing, man. They've got to live in that environment and hear those things. And as much as athletes like to say we don't pay attention to it, they pay attention to it. Trust me, they pay attention to it. The NFC North is jammed packed. We just lost to the Detroit Lions. We're obviously a really good football team. The Green Bay Packers are obviously a real good football team. And the Chicago Bears are on the come up. You start losing games, now you lose that advantage of being ahead. These teams in our conference, even though they haven't played each other yet, not conference, division, my mistake. Even though they haven't played each other yet, you gotta start jockeying for position. And these teams are not going away. The Detroit Lions are not going away. The Green Bay Packers are not going away. The Chicago Bears are not going away. So you got to get this game. Are you buying the fact that after you play this game, you have a string of games that you can potentially win? I had an opportunity to watch some sports analysts say that the Vikings could rattle off another 4 games in a row and be 9-1 going into the Chicago Bears game. That looks good on paper, but realistically, that's not usually how the NFL works. If that's the case, people that put a couple of dimes on some sports games that are into sports betting, they would win all the time. If the favorites won all the time, people would be making money heads over fists. And if there's any league that has a lot of parity, it's the NFL. So you got to be able to get these games when you get these games. This is a tough turnaround for the Minnesota Vikings, man. I'm a little concerned. They've got a couple of days of preparation. So your scouting, which is essential to winning football games, is actually cut in half. Now the Rams have to go through the same thing. Only difference is the Rams are at home, sleeping in their beds, getting a chance to be at their headquarters. They get an extra day and a half, really, of preparation when you take out the travel. When you do that, you can expand your playbook a little bit. The Minnesota Vikings don't have that luxury. They've got to condense their information to their players because there's just not enough time. There's just not enough time. KOC is going up against his mentor, Sean McVay. He talked about it in his press conference, how much McVay means to him, not even as a football coach, but just as a person that's been in his life and that's helped him with a lot of things. Who knows KOC better than McVay? You don't think that's an advantage? Oh, that's a big-time advantage. That's a huge advantage. McVay knows how KOC thinks in certain situations. He knows him as a friend, and I'm using the term that KOC used, friendship. He knows him as a friend. He knows his tendencies as a football coach. Obviously, KOC was on the staff, offensive coordinator of the team that won the Super Bowl. These guys have been in meetings together professionally, going to war. McVay knows how KOC thinks. It's a daunting task. On the flip side of it, KOC knows how McVay thinks. KOC knows in certain situations how McVay will play call. But it's interesting how this is going to play out Thursday because both guys know each other professionally and both of these guys know each other as friends. And when you have that advantage, man, that is a huge advantage. That's a part of the chess game that I'm talking about. The Minnesota Vikings, a big part of what I've seen that makes them successful is being able to effectively run the football. Aaron Jones, man, for all intents and purposes, has been a great pickup for the Minnesota Vikings. And we've seen glimpses of Aaron Jones when he's not involved in the game. What that does to our offense. And I mention these dry spells all the time. And, you know, for the most part, when Aaron Jones is not in the ball game, we have these dry spells. KOC has a balance that he has to have every game. And I feel for the guy because I don't think a lot of people see the importance in it, but it's important on how many touches do you give Aaron Jones. He can't be the bell cow and get 20 to 25 touches a game because he's just injury prone. His injury history has shown that. And so you have to have that delicate balance. But here's the deal. Ty Chandler, even though it's been a small snapshot this year, hasn't been too effective. He doesn't keep us on schedule when he has those possessions where he has to come in and spell Aaron Jones for a possession or two. He hasn't been super effective. Is that a concern for Thursday night? What is the role of Cam Akers? Cam Akers, who was on the Rams team, this is a comeback home game for him after playing in that organization. Did they pick up Cam Akers because they see some chinks in the armor of Ty Chandler? Is he going to get a bigger role in terms of being a backup to Aaron Jones? See, I think that running game for the Vikings to not drop this game on Thursday, which I consider a must-win game, because it just sets the tone, man. It just sets the tone. And I'm not talking about this is a must-win in terms of us making the playoffs or making a run in the playoffs. We got a lot of games to go. I am just saying, for the mental health of the football team. Because now, if you have 2 losses, you've got a week and a half to try to get that bad taste out of your mouth, because you're not playing on Sunday, you're playing the following Sunday. And then the F word comes out, frauds. Because you know the national media is going to jump on that if you are a Minnesota Vikings fan. You know it. You know it. They've been waiting for the shoe to drop all season long. And I call it the Sam Darnold Effect. Because you can't look at the offense and say it doesn't have any weapons. And you can't look at the defense and say they don't have any tools on that side of the ball either with B-Flow. So it's got to be their non-belief in Sam Darnold. Man, I think about some of the greats that have played this game. And I think about some of the greats that even play other sports. I thought Chris Carter, a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a week and a half, a couple of weeks ago. We all know how good of a wide receiver Chris Carter was for the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's probably the best wide receiver in the history of the Vikes, and that's a debate for another day. But Chris Carter, when he was over in London, said that Justin Jefferson was the best wide receiver to ever put on a uniform for the Minnesota Vikings. Man, what do you think about that? That comment, that's coming from CC. That's coming from Chris Carter. And we all know what a diva Chris Carter was as wide receiver. But he got the job done. But you know Chris Carter. Chris Carter had a hard time saying that Randy Moss was a better receiver than him when he played with Randy Moss. And a little bit after, they both got out of the game. Chris Carter came out with no hesitation and said that Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver to ever put on a Minnesota Vikings uniform. That's high praise. And then I look at the preparation of teams. When you think about all the great wide receivers, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Megatron, you name it. There's tons of wide receivers that I can even go old school. Steve Largent. These guys have been scouted by some of the best defensive minds in the world. And yet they still found a way to put up numbers. The offensive coordinators and the head coach found a way to scheme their best tools into their offense. No matter what you do to scout, you can bracket them, you can double team them, you can roll a safety over the top. No matter what you want to do, these offensive minds find a way to incorporate these great legendary tools into their game plan. What's going to happen on Thursday night? What's going to happen with JJ going forward? So I think the Minnesota Vikings, they've got to find a way to start scheming Justin Jefferson in different ways to make him way more effective in these big, important games. Now, he had some moments against the Detroit Lions for sure. Love the touchdown pass. But I think there's level to this, man. You can scheme JJ a little bit more into the game plan. How do you do that? Get creative. Use your mind. And this is what I'm talking about. When you start labeling guys as geniuses, like that's the type of genius that I want to see. Because Justin Jefferson isn't the first player to get double teamed and bracketed and have safeties rolled over the top. Great minds find a way to incorporate these kind of players, no matter what the defense does, into the game plan. Vikings have to be way better than that. That will alleviate those dry spells on offense that I am talking about. That's what the coaches get paid the big money for. Figure it out, man. Figure it out. This is a real big task for the Vikings. And it sounds like TJ Hockenson may be trying to give this thing a go on Thursday night. It's going to be interesting to see how that brings the Minnesota Vikings a distinct advantage now. Because not to discredit Munt. Munt has done a really good job of filling in. Oliver has had his moments as well. But now we get our guy back, TJ Hockenson, and now we got to acclimate him in to what we've been doing. And I think that's a good thing. That creates another insurance policy for Sam Darnold, especially across the middle. To have a guy that you know can pass catch like that and get some yak after he catches the ball, that's a huge thing for the Minnesota Vikings. And that's something that they really haven't had, even with their 5-0 start. It's going to be interesting to see if TJ Hockenson plays, which all signs are saying that he may give it a go. That's going to be huge for the Minnesota Vikings. UP Nation, is it a must-win on Thursday? Man, this is one of these things where I can kind of see both sides of the coin, but I'm telling you right now, even though it's early in the season, you don't want to drop 2 games in a row. That was the fear when I first looked at the schedule. When I saw the Detroit Lions, I knew that was going to be a formidable task. And then you come back on the short week and you play a Rams team that is getting Cooper Kupp back. And for the most part, the Rams are well coached. Hell, they gave the Packers a tough game when the Packers played them. The Packers had an opportunity to lose that game against the Rams. So the Rams are not going to just lay down on Thursday night and let the Vikings just come into their place and whoop their butts. I think our coaching staff, when they're at their best, is when they have a week to prepare. This is cutting our week and a half that we have to prepare. Now, I think the Vikings are going to be okay. I'm going to save my predictions and what I think the score is going to be when my guy Patrick Buchanan and I do our preview show of the Minnesota Vikings versus the Rams. But I just wanted to see what UP Nation thought. Is this a must-win? Man, there's a lot of intangibles that go into this prediction and what the Vikings realistically can do on a short week. Is that beneficial to B-Flow's defense or not? It's going to be a huge game on Thursday. In my opinion, it's going to be interesting to hear what UP Nation thinks. You guys don't be afraid to put your comments in. Let me know what you think. Is it a must-win? I say it is. It's definitely a must-win. When you look at tiebreakers, you look at the conference, you look at the division, you don't want to start slipping down the ladder. I agree with our remaining 4 games that we have left before that Chicago Bears game. We can rattle some wins off. And I do think it's realistically that we can possibly come into that game 9-1. But I think it's going to be a little bit harder than what people think. This is the NFL. A lot of parity. A lot of parity in the NFL. So hit the like and subscribe button. Put your thoughts in the comments. Is Thursday night a must-win for the Minnesota Vikings? Be interesting to hear what you got to say. This has been Unconventional Playbook. We will make sure to see you when we see you. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.